at the starting 11s then for these two sides. And for Sydney United, only 4 starters backing up from their midweek 3-3 draw with Sydney Olympic, their final match of the NPL season. Regular goalkeeper Daniel Nizic has gone and joined the current Cup champions MacArthur. So it's Luke Suka that starts between the posts. Captain Adrian Vlastelica, who spent time at Sydney FC, leads the side in defence. He's the son of Coach Miro. And up front, it's their top scorer in the league this season with 13 goals, wearing the number 9 shirt, Patrick Antelmi, in attack. And there's some quality on the bench as well with A-League experience, Chris Payne and Devante Kloot. While for Brisbane Roar, Ross Aloisi has gone with the same starting 11 that defeated the Newcastle Jets in the last round, the round of 32. It took extra time. They did it by 3-2. Tom Aldred and Kai Truen will start in the centre of defence. Louis Zabala filling in at left back. In the middle of the park, Jay O'Shea is joined by the returning Joe Coletti back with Brisbane Roar. And up front, it's 18-year-old scholarship player Tom Waddingham who continues to lead the line. On the bench, there's experience in Scott Neville, who's just signed a new 2-year deal. And there's inexperience, but plenty of potential, 15-year-old Quinn McNichol will be looking for his second ever first-team appearance. There is Glenn Trefiro. He was the man that scored that stunning winner in last year's semi-final. Jay O'Shea, he missed a penalty just before half-time a year ago in this fixture, before Charlie Austin did score from the spot in the second half. Our referee is Ali Reza Fagani, a familiar face to Australian football fans. He's being assisted by Cameron Wright and Patrick Telecki this afternoon. Ivica Kovic is the 4th official. And there is the 55-year-old Miro Vlastelica, back at his second spell at the club. And he came to help them out midway through last season and took them all the way to the Waratah Cup final, as well as the Australia Cup final. And while they're currently sitting with 1 match left to play in the NPL, in 10th place, they are in the Waratah Cup final again on the 10th of September, where they'll play Apia Leichhardt. Ross Aloisi, like Miro Vlastelica, he's back for his second spell at his club as well, this time in the top job though. 4 years assistant coach between 2015 and 2019. Ross Aloisi, part of the winds of change that swept through Brisbane Roar over the off-season, looking to improve on their 8th place finish in the A-League last season. And we're underway at Odense Park. Brisbane Roar won't have many happy memories of this fixture 12 months ago, but Phil Moss, that's what the beauty of the Cup and the magic of the Cup is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, Robbie. Great to be alongside you for this one. The crowd is building, the atmosphere is building. There's a cup game on here, you can feel it. And Sydney United, I think, will try and start on the front foot here against Brisbane Roar and get on the score sheet early. They've proven they can beat them in the past. They'll be wanting to prove they can do it again, and it was no fluke.
Well, as we mentioned in the intro, they are a proud club with a proud history. It was a tough year in the NPL for them, where they finished 10th. Here's Agamemnonos, back with Yanni Fragouyanis, who was a fullback by trade. He's playing in the centre of defence today alongside Vlastelica, his captain. On this near side at right back is Bailey Rule. And there was some thought perhaps we'd have 5 at the back, Phil. It doesn't look like that's the case for Sydney United.
No, I was just looking at the way they lined up when Brisbane had the ball, and they did drop into a back 5, so I think with the ball it might be a back 4, with the likes of Anthony Tomilich dropping into midfield and then dropping into the back line as well. So we'll see how Sydney United go tactically, but ultimately it's going to be about how they use the ball. It's going to make the difference today.
Here's Kai Truen, who played a lot of last season in midfield for Brisbane Roar. Mile Usnic has been caught there by Kawaguchi. One of the new signings this season, signed from Northern Tigers, as did the right back on the other side, Bailey Rule.
Certainly a sign of intent there. No quarter asked, no quarter given in these cup games, Robbie.
And it hurts a little bit more on the artificial pitch, doesn't it?
There's certainly no give, is there? Nonetheless, good opportunity for Brisbane to swing the ball into a dangerous area.
That's their set-piece specialist, Jay O'Shea, the Irishman, the veteran, with the ball in, back post. And he found Hoare in plenty of space there at the back post. 2 goals last season, 5 the year before that. And another player, a young player, a local boy, with plenty of potential.
We know Jay O'Shea's got real quality behind his delivery, and look at this. Henry Hoare gets himself free at the back post. I think in his mind he was trying to go back the way the ball had come from, which is the right thing to do, but he got it all wrong. Got underneath it. Good opportunity gone begging.
Aldred with a strong header through the back of Trefiro. Here's O'Shea again with Armiento. He, like O'Shea, has a wonderful set-piece delivery as well. And this one might just be for that left foot of Carlo Armiento. It was his corner that was turned in for Brisbane's first equalising goal against Newcastle in the last round. Here he is. In it comes as well. Dangerous ball. Dipping past Sydney United shirts. Now Jay O'Shea to the back post towards Zabala. He was on the score sheet as well against Newcastle. His first ever first team goal. Trewin. Zabala again. And Brisbane able to put their foot on the ball, as you might be able to hear the wind just picking up here at Odense Park.
Just a little early warning sign for Sydney United, Robbie. Brisbane were onto it and took that free kick short and quickly. Sydney United had turned their back on the ball. They won't want to do that too often. The quality of the likes of O'Shea and Armiento, his left-hand side, they'll make them pay.
Oh, a bit of holding on there between Leroy Jennings and Zabala. Agamemnonos. Here's Jennings again, who's a solid customer, playing as a right winger, it looks like, even though it was announced that he might be up front. And Trefiro is playing as a second striking role alongside Antelmi as well, with Tomalic and Agamemnonos in the middle of the park. And the second Japanese player in this side, Taisei Kaneko, at left back, as it's long towards Antelmi. Just let you in, Phil Moss always comes prepared. He had one team sheet in front of him with what Sydney United has told us, and then he's just pulled out a second team sheet, which is exactly what we've got on the field in front of us, which is what he thought it was going to be. As that ball in for Waddingham. Very, very close indeed. When you know, you know, Phil Moss.
Well, you've got to do your research, Robbie, don't you? And there's a couple of spies I may or may not have inside the Sydney United camp or around them. You may have given me some information, but no, it's good to see how they're lining up. And look, that was a great opportunity we just saw for Brisbane. They're asking some questions early.
There's a great ball in from the right. Nikolai Mileuznic operating on the right wing. Kai Trewin does well. Coletti, the 24-year-old, back at the club after spells overseas and with Adelaide. Ingott's ball overhit and out of play, and a chance for Sydney United just to catch their breath a little bit here. Trefiro with Bailey Rule, whose younger sister has just joined Brighton and Hove Albion in the WSL. Charlize Rule, who A-League women fans will know from Sydney FC. Bailey Rule, who's playing at right back. He's going to take this throw in 22-year-old, signed from the Northern Tigers at the start of the season. Here's Jennings. Did that nicely, but couldn't find Antelmi. Vlastelica, who off the back of captaining Sydney United to the Cup final last year, as here's Jennings on the front foot again. Bailey Rule arriving. Back with Jennings, nicely played. In for Rule again, down to the byline. He gets there and cuts it back, and Macklin Freak is called into action for the first time this afternoon.
Fantastic passage of play for the home side, Sydney United there. Adrian Vlastelica using a slight breeze behind him to great effect there to release Jennings down the right-hand side. That'll give them a lot of confidence.
It was the Sydney United captain that joined Sydney FC this season, or last season now, in the A-League men's competition. There's a short-term contract on an injury replacement. Club man through and through. That's one of the great things about these old clubs, the 58 in their name, of course, the year they were founded in 1958. And if you look around in the stands, there are some famous old faces watching as well. Former Socceroos amongst them. Zelko Kalatz is here, Steve Corica. There's one for Armiento to chase, down to the byline. The cross in is a good one, Waddingham's header. And the 18-year-old got up well in the middle of the box.
Oh, the hang time was outstanding from Waddington there. He wasn't far off at all. If anything, the delivery was just a little bit high for him from Armiento, and look at that. Only a few inches and a coat of paint, but technically fantastic header. Also David Zrilic, the new assistant coach for Steve Corica at Sydney FC, up in the box behind us. There's some real royalty here today, Robbie.
And Phil Moss alongside me. Well, it was a poor clearance by Tsukar, who didn't play in midweek after Daniel Nizic left the club. They've had plenty of injury problems over the course of the year, Sydney United. And that's continued all the way to the goalkeeping ranks. They had to actually sign Charles Samushonga, the 33-year-old Scot. As here goes Kaneko. Charging through, it was a great run from deep from the Japan left winger Taisai Kaneko.
Oh, the idea was fantastic. He tried to take it early into his stride, just there, really on the front foot, and then take the early shot to try and catch Freak out. Just couldn't quite get the purchase on it that he was looking for. But another good sign. They're using this breeze well, Sydney United. They're going quite direct, quite long.
That's clearly a tactic. We've seen it a number of times. 3 or 4 long balls over the top, trying to stretch Brisbane Roar. Aldred is looking for a different option there. And he's letting Louis Zabala know about it now.
We had Zabala and Armiento both running away from him. He needed someone to come short. The Brisbane Roar captain.
And tell me strong in the challenge. And Carlo Armiento coming off second best.
I reckon if you don't do what Aldred wants you to do, you'd know about it. There's no grey areas with the Brisbane Roar captain.
Here's Hingert getting forward, a little touch through for Coletti, went sliding in on Tsukar. And Ali Reza Fagani just ensuring that we have no injuries early in this one, giving Tsukar the free kick.
And credit to Coletti there. You could see that he pulled out when he knew he couldn't get there. He thought he was half a chance, and then he pulls his studs away. Respect to fellow player, because it could have been quite ugly.
And the artificial pitch also takes a little bit of getting used to in those situations as well. Is there a little push in the back there from Aldred on Antelmi? That's what the crowd thought.
You make a good point there too, Robbie. Sydney United will be so much more used to this surface, the artificial grass, than what Brisbane Roar will be. It does take time just to find your feet. The speed of the ball, of course.
Hoare over the top, looking for Miliusnic. Gets away from Tomilic. Trefiro a little theatrically going to ground, but he gets the free kick and the cheers from the crowd.
I don't call him Tricky Trefiro for nothing. Amongst his bag of tricks on the ball. Also knows how to manage a game well. And Trefiro, of course, I worked with him at the Central Coast Mariners. Wonderful human being, first of all. And a player who's probably never quite gone to the heights that his talents deserve. But certainly a great servant in the NPL and had a good spell at the Mariners as well.
One of several players with A-League experience in this Sydney United squad. And tell me, the number 9 up front, 13 goals this season in the NPL, 1 appearance for Western United. Trefiro, yes, Vlastelica as well, the captain at the back. There's no way past Jennings for Armiento, and he's a solid customer, Leroy Jennings.
That was a very good little battle there, one-on-one, Armiento and Jennings. I hear good reports on Jennings as well and how direct he is, and he's got an action to get past his defenders. Look forward to seeing what he brings this afternoon.
Armiento up the line for Zabala. Rule does well with Antelmi. Oh, lovely quick feet from Antelmi, who came through the youth ranks at Portsmouth and Leeds United, Wigan and Wolves in England before returning to Australia. That's nicely played by Sydney United. Kawaguchi with Tomilic. Dragoyanis. Agamemnonos with Rule. Jennings took off ahead of him, but he just struggled to get the ball out of his feet. Vlastelica looking up. Again, looking to see if there was something long on. Dragoyanis does likewise towards Antelmi. And now Coletti, the former Australia under-17 captain, with Henry Hoare. Picked off by Kaneko.
Sydney United have caused a couple of problems when they've gone in behind early. When they go long to feet, it's not as effective because the likes of Aldred and Kai Truan are picking them off quite easily.
Challenged by Vlastelica, getting the better of Waddingham, but Brisbane have won it back. Henry Hoare. Miliusnic with Hoare again. The cross from Jay O'Shea, blocked by Kaneko. Attacking throw for the A-League side.
That's the second time in quick succession that Kaneko has snuffed out a Brisbane Roar attack. You see he's prepared to work hard in both directions, even without the ball. Brisbane just seem to have settled a little bit quicker, Robbie, in this opening 15 minutes or so on the ball.
Coletti again with Hingard. Been all change over the off-season at Brisbane Roar. Gone Chris Fong, Ante Kovacevic, the director of football, one of 3 general managers. Well, I do see Matt Smith behind us as well in the stands today. Another former Brisbane Roar captain. And they've brought in Kaz Patafta and Zach Anderson, another former Mariner, both former A-League players. And plenty of changes coming at Brisbane Roar. As here's Zabala, that's nicely done. The cross back post, Miliusnic was there, Armiento. Well, it was there for the striking, but he couldn't hit the target.
No, another good opportunity with no outcome in the end for Brisbane Roar, but it seems to be down this left-hand side that they're causing most of their problems. For Sydney United, Zabala getting forward, good shape on that cross as well. In the end, it was well defended by Sydney United.
This is where Carlo Armiento is very, very dangerous. He almost scored a pair of direct corner goals against Adelaide last season. Here it comes, back post, and well, a leopard can't change its spots. You always know that Carlo Armiento is going to go close to scoring from one of those in-swinging corners.
And Suka made a good decision there not to try and catch it. The ball was well over his head. He just had to palm it to safety.
Now what are we going to see from Jay O'Shea here? He's got Armiento coming short to the corner of the box, and he's still free if they want to play it short. Well, Jay O'Shea thought long and hard about it. Now, delivery in, back post, and again, Tsuka punches clear. Mile Uznic back in. Cleared by Kaneko. Here's Hingert. O'Shea whips the ball back post again. Aldred had stayed forward, but the young goalkeeper, Luke Tsuka, does well.
Some good interventions there from Suka under a little bit of pressure from both corners, and then that ball swung back in by Jay O'Shea. Deals with that one again with a punch.
Oh, but it's a second poor clearance. Mile Uznic with Henry Hoare, surely. And the mistake from the young goalkeeper. And Brisbane Roar merciless in putting that one away. One touch on the penalty spot from Henry Hoare, and the opening goal.
13, Henry Hoare.
So the case of commentators, guys, I don't know what it is. I was just singing the praise of Suka, and he gives the ball away. And when you give Henry Hoare that type of space inside the box, there's only going to be one result. And he picks his spot and puts it away with a really assured finish. Ross Aloisi off his chair to celebrate that goal. Not over the top, of course, just a little clap from the boss. Happy with what he's seen.
And of course, I mentioned the changes at head office at Brisbane Roar, but the most important one probably is the arrival of Ross Aloisi on the bench. Speaking to Zach Anderson and Casper Tafter earlier about the number of coaches interviewed for the job, and they were very happy to go with Ross Aloisi as their choice. And of course, a coach that knows the club well. His last coaching job was actually assistant at Yokohama F. Marinos in the J-League last year when he left Adelaide United, of course.
Yeah, I caught up with Ross before the game in the dressing rooms, and there's a real buzz. I have to say, I felt the energy as soon as I was near the Brisbane Roar dressing room, and I know Zach Anderson, of course, and how delightful seeing two young football business people involved with the club in Zach and Casper Tafter. Ross had a real energy about him and what he wanted to bring to Brisbane this season, how much he'd learnt over in Japan under Kevin Muscat. So some exciting times.
And tell me, struck with venom from outside the box, can't force Macklin Freak into the save though, but that was better from Sydney United, moving the ball around quickly around the edge of the box.
Yeah, they've got some technical players in Antelmi, obviously Trefiro, Jennings as well, and of course Kaneko on the left-hand side. They've got to get the ball to their feet, give them that freedom to express themselves in the top third.
And fans of NPL New South Wales, when you talk about technical prowess, have a look at Chris Payne's goal from Wednesday night against Sydney Olympic. A goal that wouldn't have been out of place at any stadium anywhere around the world. He's on the bench. A man that played a big part in last year's cup run, of course.
I spoke to Payne before the game as well. He's looking forward to coming off the bench and having an impact second half. Coached him as a really young boy down at Manly United. He was the first Lucas Neal scholarship holder who went to England on some trials. It was Chris Payne. 33 years of age now, Robbie. I think I was a brunette when I used to coach him.
Well, he is one of those players that's been around, always gone back to Manly as well for a long time anyway in his career. He must have left a good impression, Mossy.
I think he just loves the sea air.
Zavala with Henry Hoare. He's been at Sydney United for a number of years now. It's Mileušnić. He's caught by Tomilic. Tomilic, one of 4 players that started the semi-final last year in the Sydney United ranks. Trefiro came off the bench. The other 3 were Vlastelica, Taisei Kaneko, and Andrea Agamemnonos, the number 14. Many of that squad that played in last year's Cup run are still at Sydney United. Here's O'Shea. Fragogiannis, the centre-back, actually missed it because he was on a Bucks night trip in America that had been planned for a long time before they made the semis. There were a couple of players in that boat. As O'Shea does well. Bailey Rule's challenge, and it's out for a goal kick.
Interestingly enough, Robbie, Sydney United went on that great run all the way to the final in the Australia Cup last season, of course, but I actually think it cost them in the league this season because their season was extended by 8 weeks. Very short pre-season, and they finished nowhere near where a club of Sydney United's size expects to finish in the NPL. I think they were down 9th or 10th, which is not good enough for a club like this, but they take the cup very seriously.
And they're in the Waratah Cup final as well against Darfia, something of a cup side. It's often the case when a club is a league side or a cup side. That's well played. Tomilic helps it on its way out to Kaneko. Kawaguchi overlapping run. This is nice from Sydney United. And Antelmi was lurking in the middle with intent, and it's Kai Truan that turns it behind.
What a fantastic sweeping move by the home side. Kaneko involved again, used his overlapping runner so well. But it's that man in midfield, Tomilic, who just kept that move flowing with one touch passing in the middle of the park.
Trefiro's corner, near post. Waddingham's header. Armiento helps it on its way, but here comes Sydney United again. Trefiro looks up, slices the ball towards Antelmi. Vlastelica at the back post. Antelmi comes short again. That's a nice turn as well, away from Armiento. Shoots through a crowd of players, but can't stretch Macklin Freak.
He knew what he was trying to do then, Antelmi. I think he was looking for that back post, just to bend it, use the breeze behind him. Didn't quite get the power or the direction he was looking for. Nonetheless, some very good signs for Sydney United in that last couple of minutes.
Vlastelica forced to stretch to try and make up for that loose pass from Taisei Kaneko. Armiento's ball in. Dealt with by Fragogiannis and Bailey Rule. And Antelmi, Jennings, Tomilic, closed down quickly by Mileušnić. And they look to spring forward again here. Kawaguchi. Kaneko wanted it. He was in a pocket of space as well. Trefiro finds him now. Agamemnonos. Here's Fragogiannis, and Brisbane Roar have managed to get back in numbers, put the brakes on that transition. Tomilic again has his pocket picked by Mileušnić. O'Shea with Armiento. Well, it took Brisbane a little while to get going in this fixture last year. It's been more controlled, more composed, and most importantly of all, the early goal to settle any nerves. Rule. Oh, Tomilic can't find Trefiro. Can Brisbane make them pay again? O'Shea, one for Coletti to chase, but it runs away.
We've had 26 minutes gone, and that's about the first mistake I've seen from Anthony Tomilich in the midfield for Sydney United. His passing has been fantastic when the home side's been in possession.
27 of the 30 league appearances this year as well for Sydney United. Tomilich in the middle of the park as Antelmi breaks forward, and down that left-hand side, here come Sydney United. Oh, and the pass after all of that is just under-hit, not on the same wavelength at all. And Antelmi looking confused. It looked as though it was his pass that was at fault.
I think he was in two minds whether to play Kawaguchi or Kaneko. In the end, he went straight to an orange shirt. It was a shame because it was a promising build-up in transition from Sydney United. And that's where it's just letting them down at the moment. They're getting some decent possession, some decent transition moments. It's just missing that cutting edge.
It has been better, though, since going behind. They've created some danger in the Brisbane Roar back line. There's Tom Aldred. Armiento. And we're seeing those inside channel runs from Zabala and Hingett. The underlapping fullbacks. Coletti with Aldred. Quick feet. Waddingham does well too, the 18-year-old. For Henry Hoare, the goal scorer in the 19th minute. Here he's again, Brisbane's number 13 with Louis Zabala. Coletti. Zabala, Armiento, back for Louis Zabala. He was a central midfielder by trade. You've seen him mostly at right back in the A-League over the last 2 seasons, but he's filling in at left back. Something of a problem area for this Brisbane Roar side. Courtney Perkins last year was the left back, but he was only on loan for a season from Denmark.
The longest serving left back for Brisbane's sitting in the stands, Shane Stefanuto, now the football director.
Coletti again with Miliuznic. Little 1-2 with Armiento. Space for O'Shea. Or again, the challenge from Agamemnonos is a good one, but O'Shea has it straight back. It might open up for a shot here for Jay O'Shea. Henry Hoare. Well, Jay O'Shea said midway through last season that I know I have to shoot more, and that was one of those opportunities right on the edge of the box.
Well, you and I both thought he was going to pull the trigger, as we see Jay O'Shea, such a tidy player. Just sees the space in front of him opening up, and he turns back inside. He probably took the right option there, if I'm honest. Running away from goal, it would have been some finish from where he was. Henry Hoare just couldn't get his head over the ball.
Tomilich with Kawaguchi. Trefiro. Settling things down with Fragoyanis. That's a good ball for Jennings. And now Rule overlapping down the right-hand side. The cross is not a bad one towards Antelmi. And Jay O'Shea put his head where it's possibly a little bit dangerous in the end. Antelmi had the boot raised.
Yeah, we see the ball down the right-hand side. It was good delivery into a dangerous area. Jay O'Shea was brave there, but he had to do what he had to do. You can't blame Antelmi for going for the ball either.
A little space in the pocket again for Coletti. An easy one to negotiate for Waddingham, and Lastalitza comes away with it. Oof. Yellow card for Henry Hoare.
Well, he may as well have pulled the card out of Alireza Fagani's pocket. He knew he'd given himself up there. It's a foul. We see again, it's really a needless foul. There's no need to certainly give away a foul there or a yellow card.
And now Sydney United again. Oh, the cut back. It was just asking a little too much of Jennings, who had started from too far wide on the right. Now Rule looking for Trefiro. Waddingham with Hoare, and over the top for Waddingham. The scholarship player taking on Vlastelica for pace and strength. And he managed to get the shot away.
A great example of a give and go from Waddington there. He's laid it off and then he's tried to get him behind. The return pass has found him and he's used his strength very well, trying to take the shot early to catch Suka out. He's shown some promising signs, Waddington, in these early stages, first half an hour.
That was an 8th shot in this match in favour of Brisbane Roar. 3 for Sydney United so far, but just the one on target at each end. As it's long for Jennings, that time just 2 straight. No problem for Macklin Freak. Coletti with Hingett. O'Shea. Again, Tomilic just sneaking in.
Speaking of long-serving fullbacks for Brisbane Roar, Jack Hingett has been a fantastic servant for the Roar over many seasons.
I think it's his 11th campaign coming up, or 12th campaign now for Brisbane Roar. Started out at North Queensland Fury. Kai Truan. Will we see him installed in the centre of defence this season? He's also a very good number 6. Defensive midfielder, just 22 years of age. Scott Neville's just signed a new 2-year deal on the bench, and there's one that could come back to play in centre of defence. Hoare with Coletti. Aldred. Coletti. Another of the exciting signings, Florent Berenguer, the Frenchman, who's been training individually the last week and a half since signing from Melbourne City. Not yet fit enough to play. Perhaps the next round if Brisbane make it. Coletti overhit.
He didn't have enough real estate to work with there, Coletti. Very, very difficult pass to execute. I'm just talking about the left back position as well. Corey Brown, I believe, is back in training, Robbie. Not far off, maybe resuming to some sort of play. Great to see that that's been sorted out as well.
There's the official apology from Brisbane Roar a month ago to Corey Brown. As Waddingham with the little glancing header. He's causing Adrian Vlastelica plenty of headaches in this first half.
He's certainly a physical specimen, isn't he? Knows how to use his body.
Fragogiannis and Agamemnonos. Now with Vlastelica. Trefiro. Just back from a 2-match ban. Glenn Trefiro sent off against the Mariners Academy side 2 weeks ago. Jennings, nicely done. Little 1-2 with Trefiro. Jennings again, looking back inside, and Truan was stretched. Waddingham, great strength again from the 18-year-old against Tomilic. Early Razor sees nothing untoward if you play a physical game. As Jennings fouls Louis Zabala.
I think Zabala did a really good job of defending that situation then. Jennings can complain all he likes. As you see on the replay, this is the foul that Waddington was looking for, and I don't see any foul there. This is the one and Zabala. I think Alireza Fagani got that just right, as we've come to expect from the World Cup, an experienced referee.
Well, he's refereed the biggest names in world football. Alireza Fagani, the Iranian, who's been in Australia for approaching a decade now. Of course, took charge of the Asian Cup final in 2015. The Socceroos' greatest ever achievement. Asian champions under a certain Ange Postecoglou. Oh, as that's intercepted by Antelmi, who breaks away down the right-hand side. 3 forward in support for Sydney United. Antelmi looking for the option. Jennings. Coletti defends well. Jennings still. He's got Rule there in support. They work it short. Agamemnonos, Tomilic, but they're forced all the way back. Dragoyanis with Vlastelica. Kaneko. Trefiro. Well, Trefiro's done that well. Kaneko, Kawaguchi, the cross in. Truan's defensive header. Armiento helps it on its way, but only as far as Trefiro. That one too hot to handle for Taisei Kaneko.
You can't help but feel the sting of that attack went out. And Talmi broke down the right-hand side. The momentum was just lost and allowed Brisbane to get numbers behind the ball. They're the moments that Sydney United, if they're to get themselves back into this game, they have to take those opportunities. Just talking of Alireza Fagani, I was at the World Cup, as you know, Robbie, last year in Qatar. Walked in to watch Portugal and Uruguay, and there he is in the middle, controlling the game. Had a fantastic game that night as well. That was the game that Ronaldo may or may not have scored with his head.
Well, there is plenty of talent in Australian football. It extends to the referees, of course. We had several representatives at the Men's World Cup and Women's World Cup just held as well. Dragoyanis back for Tsukar. He looks long, but Aldred pounces on the situation.
Tell you what else was a pinch yourself moment was Spurs Manchester United last week. Ange Postecoglou and Jared Gillette as the 4th official.
And now Zabala's cross in. Waddingham this time gets his goal. A first ever senior goal with Brisbane Roar for the scholarship player Tom Waddingham. What a moment for him. Zabala's cross perfectly met in the middle. And Sydney United, there'd been warning signs from that young man in particular, but they weren't heeded.
Well, if anyone deserves a goal, it's that young kid there, Waddington. And the key is he attacks the ball. And he gets across the shoulder of Adrian Vlastelica. Look at that, he just gets to the ball first, uses his body well.
Goal for Brisbane Roar, scored by number 15, Thomas Waddingham. Brisbane Roar 2, leads Sydney United 58
Great credit to
FC.
Zabala for the cross as well. Whipped it into a dangerous area, and he has worked oh so hard for his first competitive goal for Brisbane Roar.
Well, if you're wondering why the likes of Alex Parsons, who's back at the club from Sydney FC, or Ayon Majok, who spent time at Western United, are starting on the bench, and it's the 18-year-old who's got the nod. Well, if you needed any more proof, there it is. His first header almost found the top corner, the second one nestling inside that same upright. And now Sydney United have a real mountain to climb. They came from behind against Brisbane last season in the semi-finals, but they were never 2 goals down. They have had half chances, but as is so often the case with an underdog, Mossy, you have to take those chances. You need that little bit of luck as well.
Yeah, you certainly do, Robbie. And they've had some of those opportunities, and it's, again, that cutting edge. They just haven't threatened enough in that final third in this first half. It's still a steep hill to climb, not a mountain yet. But if they don't get the next goal, Sydney United, it could only go one way.
Jay O'Shea wasn't happy with that challenge. Still just the one yellow of the match so far for Henry Hoare in the 32nd minute. Also on the score sheet, and so is now Tom Waddingham, who may not be the youngest goal scorer we have today, because there's a 15-year-old on the bench, Quinn McNichol, who almost scored against Newcastle with one of his early touches. He's got a bit of pedigree as well. Dad Ryan was a A-League player. Oof. Kawaguchi getting there first. He was caught. Mile Uznic it was in the end. And if there is to be a way back into this game, it might just happen here with a good set piece.
I'm glad he's back on his feet, because that looked like it was uglier than what it was at first glance. This is a great area for Sydney United, and Trefiro has got some real pedigree from set piece delivery.
Well, just over 90 seconds left in first half regulation time. Nastalitza and Zabala with a little bit of contact in the box, which Ali Reza Fagani's not happy about. Trefiro's ball in towards Antelmi. Jay O'Shea's header, and Macklin Freak just takes it off the head of Antelmi.
Just didn't quite give it enough air there, Trefiro. Needed to beat that first line of defence, give his strikers something to run at.
O'Shea over the top for Waddingham. Another for him to chase, and Sukar this time with a comfortable grab. Well, it's all experience for a young goalkeeper whose mistake led to the opening goal. Nothing he could do about the second, but he's going to have another big match in a few days' time on the 10th of September, as Sydney United players claiming that Aldred should have given away a free kick earlier in that passage of play. It was in the initial header. One there as Antelmi just dragging him down.
Certainly, in summary of this first half so far, Robbie, Brisbane looked very comfortable. They settled into their rhythms. Their rotations have looked quite good. You can see what Ross Aloisi's been working on the training pitch. It's always good to see it starting to show signs on match day this early in the pre-season.
Kaneko under pressure and getting the free kick after Louis Zabala came through the back of him, right in front of the Brisbane bench, who were nonplussed by the decision.
Big half-time talk coming up from Miro Vlastelica in the Sydney United dressing room. He's going to have to do something that's going to make Brisbane Roar a little more uncomfortable in the second half than what they've been in this first half.
And Sydney United finishing with a flurry of free kicks. Can they make it count? A little bit of extra possession. Possession very much in Brisbane's favour. It's through for Rule, but O'Shea was there. Waddingham finds Henry Hoare. The break is on here. A third goal before half-time would really hurt Sydney United. Zabala's cross blocked by Agamemnonos. Aldred only as far as Tomalic. Jennings, foul in the back by Hingett. Referee allows play to continue. Here's Trefiro trying to get on the ball more and more, deeper and deeper. Gets it back from Tomalic. Jennings. Looks to run at Mileušnić. Is fouled. And now Ali Reza Fagani, I think he's having a word to Miro Vlastelica there and just saying, let's keep it calm on the bench. He's prepared to let a lot go, Ali Reza Fagani, but not talk.
No, that's right. You're never going to win a talking contest, are you? This is where Miro needs to stay calm, obviously, and come up with some really strong messages at half-time, maybe a couple of tactical tweaks as well.
Is this the moment for Sydney United to begin their comeback? It's a good ball in. Oh, it could so easily have ended up in the back of the net. Now with Fragogiannis, who scored in last season's cup run. Tomalic, ball in, and Aldred heads away, and that is the last action of the first half, the last chance.
Half-time here at United Sports Centre.
Of the first half.
Lead.
And Sydney United finishing the half on top, but unfortunately for them, two lapses in concentration have seen the visitors from the A-League, Brisbane Roar, avenge their semi-final defeat from last season. So far, at least, they lead at the break by 2-0 thanks to Henry Hoare and Tom Waddingham.
Spectators must refrain from any disorderly conduct or conduct.
Well, let's have a look at the highlights. It's just the 2 goals, Mossy, and that was a bad mistake from the young keeper, Tsuka.
Yeah, it was, and Henry Hoare took full advantage. You can't give a player of that quality that sort of space inside the box, and he really put that away with some confidence, didn't he, Henry Hoare? It was a mistake. It was their own undoing, Sydney United. Tsuka has been good otherwise. That one mistake has really hurt them in that first half.
And then just 5 minutes before half-time, we've been impressed by this youngster,
license has been found, and it is at the club shop. It's for Christopher Parsons. Christopher Parsons, if you're looking for your driver's license, it is at the shop near the entry, the Sydney United club shop.
Welcome back to Adenza Park, the home of Sydney United. 58 Football Club taking on A-League Brisbane Roar. Opposition in the last 16 of the Australia Cup. The last 16 getting underway today, and we'll have plenty of action on Network 10 and 10 Play over the next week as we prepare for the latter stages of this cup competition, which involves over 700 clubs around the country. As you can see on your screens there, one change at the break, and it's the much-travelled Ante Bakmaz who's come on to replace Yanni Fragogiannis in the centre of defence. As Sydney United, trailing by 2-0, get this second half underway. An early touch for the substitute Bakmaz. And Phil Moss joining me in commentary. Sydney United with a mountain to climb if they're to reproduce those incredible scenes of 12 months ago when they eliminated Brisbane Roar from this competition.
Yeah, that's right. There is a lot of work to be done, and I'm intrigued that the substitution is at the back with Ante Bakmaz coming on when there's the likes of Devante Clute on the bench. Chris Payne, of course, players who are capable of breaking open a game and creating chances and scoring goals.
Vlastelica with the windmill tackle there, the legs swinging, bringing down Miliusnic.
So you can only imagine maybe it was an injury that brought about that substitution for Sydney United. You do wonder how long Coach Vlastelica will wait until he brings some more attacking energy into this game for Sydney United, because they needed an early goal if they're to get back into this game. Of that there is no doubt.
There is Chris Payne, perhaps getting ready for a warm-up to come on at some point in this second half as Jay O'Shea delivers to the back post. Louis Zabala leaping. Bailey Rule's initial header wasn't the best, but it's Vlastelica who gets it clear, and now O'Shea. That shot was heading well wide of the mark, but Brisbane still have it. Zabala with Armiento. This is nicely done. The cross whipped in towards Waddingham again, and it's the first real contribution of the new man Bakmaz, who heads that up over his own crossbar.
Really good defending. He had to get his positioning just right, Bakmaz, and he did that. And there was a fair amount of pace on that delivery. He knew anything on it to take it to safety, as we see Chris Payne on the bench, and he does look like he's getting ready for some action.
More defending to be done from Sydney United. Ante Bakmaz has been around. He's played in Malta, Latvia, Lebanon, Indonesia, and most recently Bosnia, before returning to Australia with Sydney United, as that corner was in the end put out for a throw by Miliusnic.
It's a positive start for the second half from Brisbane Roar, as you'd expect. Confident going in, 2-0 up at half time. They've got the breeze in their back now.
Kaneko And Antelmi looking to get away with it. O'Shea there, just tidying up with Aldred. The 22-year-old Kai Truan, fast approaching 100 matches in the A-League for Brisbane Roar. Ollie Roux with an Olympic Games to qualify for this year. It'll be a busy, big year for a number of these young national team youth players. There's Mile Uznic, just too much of the body, not enough of the ball on Kawaguchi there.
Yeah, huge 12 months coming up for the Ollie Roux under Tony Vidmar. Of course, we saw the A-League men's draw come out. No break for the Asian Cup, which doubles as the Olympic qualifiers for the 23s.
That's nicely played by Hoare. Waddingham, oh, he was looking for the little cutback. They were queuing up. Henry Hoare has it again now, though. Down to the byline, the cutback. And Vlastelica, coolly done with Bailey Rule, and now Leroy Jennings. Aldred, well, that's a pass over hit again. I think just a little bit of the artificial surface, just catching the players out every now and again.
You can go with that, Robbie. I'll go with the centre half, trying to play as a playmaker in midfield.
Well, he has been much more effective with those thumping defensive headers, Tom Aldred. This is Kawaguchi with his compatriot Kaneko. Tomalic. Agamemnonos. Vlastelica now. Kawaguchi. Closed down by Hingert, who caught him late. Referee having a long look at it and then deciding no advantage. Foul given, and Ross Aloisi, on the edge of his technical area, screaming instructions at his players.
It looked like there was very little in it. Hingert did catch him, there's no doubt about that, but it's a silly foul to give away.
Trefiero's ball in. O'Shea, the defensive header. Bailey Rule only finds Zabala.
Just feel that breeze coming up, Robbie, in this second half as well. It's certainly stronger than it was in the first 45 minutes. I think that'll play into the hands of Brisbane Roar, help them pin Sydney United back.
Rule with Jennings. Fiji Youth International, Leroy Jennings. Tomalic with Vlastelica. Kawaguchi, Tomalic. It's a nice ball, inviting Jennings to take. He was just caught on his heels a little bit. Bakmaz with Vlastelica. He straightens up. Agamemnonos with Trefiero. Just trying to navigate in those little pockets in between defence and midfield of the opposition. Agamemnonos again, bypassing Trefiero this time for Jennings. Now Rule has to turn. They've kept it alive though. Trefiero back again for Rule. The flag up for offside against Bailey Rule.
It was good from Sydney United though, getting Trefiero on the ball in those pockets. He can see those passes. Didn't quite come off once again. That'll give them some confidence. They can get into those areas, but once again they proved that in the first half. It was just a lack of outcome that hurt them.
Waddingham's touch for Hoare. Mile Uznic slowing things down with O'Shea. Mentioned the changes that have come at Brisbane Roar off the field during the off-season. over the winter. One of the first things the club, the new direction of the club, brought in was a supporters advisory board as well, and we know that that's a very important piece of the A-League puzzle now as well, to listen to the supporters, try and grow, especially a club like Brisbane Roar, who used to fill Suncorp. They're back at Suncorp as well. It's the place that Brisbane Roar has to be. It was the scene of all those glory seasons 10 years ago.
Please don't bring up the grand final.
What grand final was he? Yes.
Exactly. But no, you're right. It's a spiritual home. There's no doubt that the supporters feel connected there and players love playing there. You just get the feeling, I know there's still a lot of work to do, and Ross Aloisi was the first to say that before the game. But just that energy I felt being around the Brisbane dressing room before the game today. A different feel to last year.
Last year it was Warren Moon for most of the campaign. It's over the top. Jennings, the flag has stayed down. Oh! And Telmi was in the middle. And was that the opportunity for Sydney United?
Well, there's an inquisition going on between Antelmi and Jennings. I don't think Antelmi would have passed this if he was in the same position. That's a decent strike, and it's only just missed that far post. Ross Aloisi off his seat, holding an inquisition of his own as to how that happened, but it was Trefiro that set Jennings on his path to goal. Once again, a great opportunity gone begging for the home side, Robbie.
And their best chance of the match. 2-1. With the chance to get back into the game, we might have seen some nervy Brisbane Roar, because, well, there is a new feeling at the Roar. And you're speaking about it, Mossy, having what you can feel speaking to the people around the club. But the certainties aren't there yet. And a goal is very good at shaking foundations. And perhaps that will yet come for Sydney United.
Yeah, you're spot on. The energy is one thing and the optimism is another. They've still got to do it. And over a period of time, with a big, big season looming for them. But you're right, as long as it stays 2-0, Sydney United are only a kick away from changing the complexion of this game.
Or perhaps Brisbane from taking it beyond them. And just a minute after Sydney United could have been back in the contest, Nikolai Miliusnic has made it 3-0 in favour of Brisbane Roar. Henry Hoare again involved.
Brisbane Roar 3 leads Sydney United.
And a mountain has now become even more than that for Sydney United if they're to salvage something from this.
Yeah, great work down the left-hand side. Henry Hoare, he out-muscled his opponent to get free, gets his head up, and then picks the spot for Miliusnic, who'd made a great run across his defender with a simple finish in the end. But the hard work had already been done. The finish was the easy part. Nothing less than they deserve, Brisbane Roar. How often do we see it, Robbie? Sydney United with that gilt-edged opportunity to peg it back to 2-1. Couldn't take advantage. Brisbane Roar go down the other end and score.
Just 2 goals last season against the Jets and Sydney FC for the former Adelaide man, Nikola Miliusnic. And now, Sydney United
Replacement for Sydney United, number 14, Andreas
have made the change.
Coming off to be replaced by number 10, Devante Kloot.
Devante Kloot, the creative player, a former A-League man, and again replacing Andrea Agamemnonos. So that's a slightly more attacking move, but perhaps looking to change the balance in midfield a little bit more in a positive fashion for Sydney United now. Devante Kloot, who was a Ollie Roux himself back in the day, Australia under-23 international, a champion of the NPL with Sydney United in 2020. former Brisbane Roar player as well. Waddingham losing out to Bankmaz. And double changes coming for Brisbane Roar as well. Alex Parsons, who's back in Brisbane after a season, a largely disappointing season at Sydney FC.
Number 6, Joe Coletti, to be replaced by number 12, Taras.
And it's Taras Gumulka, who arrived midway through last campaign from Melbourne City, who will come into that defensive midfield role to replace Joe Coletti. Carlo Armiento is coming off to be replaced by Alex Parsons as well. Just the one goal for him last season, with very few opportunities at Sydney FC. And then 2 more changes for Sydney United as well, with Yanni Pakatis and Chris Payne. And Chris Payne coming on to replace Glenn Trefiro, who's made it nearly through an hour, the assistant coach of Sydney United.
Coming up is Anthony Tomic, and coming on
and
is
Yanni Pakatis, one of the heroes of last season's Cup campaign. He started that semi-final victory over Brisbane. He replaces Tomic. And so is this the start? Sometimes substitutions can have the reverse effect and just unsettle a side's rhythm. If that happens to Brisbane and Sydney United can find a quick goal, Parsons immediately on the front foot. With Hoare, Zabala, corner for Brisbane. It will be Jay O'Shea to take on that far side in the sun. Taken short with Parsons, trying to dink it in. Ricochets off Kaneko.
You can see the early signs. It's still pre-season for Brisbane, of course, but Sydney United going with Antelmi and Chris Payne up front while their team's defending a corner. Brisbane weren't dealing with it until Ross Aloisi got off his bench and barked some orders. That's all the fine-tuning needed between now and the season kickoff.
Back post, and just glancing off the head of Gumulka. You wouldn't want to concede a goal on one of those counter-attacks, leaving yourself wide open when you're in control of a football match. Rastalitsa gives it away. Gumulka, Hoare, Waddingham. Oh, it's a lovely touch. Hesitation at the back. Waddingham and Tsukar, the keeper, with a confident grab at the feet of the keeper there after another little moment's hesitation. It looked like he might have been in there. And now some urgency from Payne with the quick throw for Jennings. Here is Chris Payne driving the ball in. It was perhaps deflected. It was moving around in the air. Not an easy one for Zabala. And now Pakatis fancying his chances from a long way out.
With his first touch of the ball as well, it is a long, long way out. But here's that chance before. I just wondered, there was some doubt in Shuka's mind whether he was actually going to get there. In the end, he made the decision and pulled it in nice and safely. Just for a moment, I thought young Waddingham was a chance for his second of the afternoon.
Clute not quickly enough to get there ahead of Gumulka. Zabala just trying to force the issue with Parsons, who wasn't making that run. Payne, a little touch off. Well, he was involved, heavily involved in that semi-final win. It was A couple of lovely little flicks and the assist for Glenn Trefiro in extra time that turned out to be the winner. And those incredible scenes, Daniel Nizic saving a penalty from Jay O'Shea, having already been the hero of the penalty shootout win over Western United. Sydney United becoming the first NPL side into the Australia Cup final, but they're in trouble here. Mile Usnic again unable to turn a promising situation into a clear-cut goal-scoring chance.
Well, it has to be said, that chance came from young Thomas Waddingham again, doing some defensive work there and a really intelligent release once he'd won the ball back. He's only showing brawn, he's also showing brains.
And Brisbane just looking to turn the screw now. Hingett fouled by Payne. O'Shea with Mile Usnic. Gumulka. Gumulka again. Oh, he almost turned away from the challenge, but didn't take the ball with him. Aldred. Parsons trying to dive through the challenge, and he's brought down by Pakatis. And they're leading 3-0, but you wouldn't know it to see Ross Aloisi on the sidelines.
That's right. I just see this replay here on the foul on Parsons. He did very well to bring that ball under control, by the way. Showed quick feet. But these are the situations that you just love as a coach. The result is well in your keeping. You can continue driving the players to work on the things you've been driving on the training pitch.
Like this, O'Shea driving forward. Well, it may have been intended for Waddingham. Mile Usnic gets there, the cut back towards O'Shea. Parsons. Penalty. Well, Bailey Rule claims he got the ball. Ali Reza Faghani's not interested. Parsons certainly started behind the 8 ball, lunged in trying to get there.
It was a swift counter-attack from Brisbane, wasn't it? You see the cut back there, and then it falls calmly, and there's no doubt that that's a penalty. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. Bailey Rule went to volley the ball to safety, and all he did was volley the back of the striker's foot.
And Jay O'Shea missed that penalty last season. He scored 17 A-League goals, the vast majority of them all coming from the penalty spot. Can he score here? He does so emphatically. And just midway through this second half, it is now Brisbane Roar 4, Sydney United 0.
Well, that is an emphatic finish from Jay O'Shea, as we've come to expect. Such a classy player, absolutely no doubt in his mind he was going high and to the keeper's right, giving Shuka no chance whatsoever to give his side an unassailable lead now. Brisbane Roar so dominant in so many different areas, and now it's starting to really show on the scoreboard as well.
And there is not going to be a cup set this afternoon at Odense Park, so just a year on from those incredible scenes. Brisbane Roar exacting their revenge in clinical fashion now. It was a humiliating afternoon for them last year, and they want to return the favour in kind. Yellow card, Chris Payne. And they've got to try and keep their cool here. And if you're Chris Payne, you certainly don't want to be suspended from that Waratah Cup final, because there's no competitive matches in between now and then. Lachlan Freak looks long under the eyes of new goalkeeper coach Frank Urich at Brisbane Roar. He's Just watching him a few moments ago, he was saying no more long clearances. Let's pass it out. Like you say, Mossy, it's all part of using a 4-0 scoreline with 25 minutes left to play to try and implement, without the necessity of a result, implement the possible changes. Oh, as Waddingham looking for Parsons. It was well read by Rule. He looks a footballer, is Tom Waddingham.
He really does. And I know no one can have eyes in the back of their head, but the reverse pass was on to a flying Mile Jusnic. He wasn't far off executing the pass that he could see. He's been very impressive this afternoon for me, Robbie.
With his first ever senior professional goal, O'Shea with Gamulka. O'Shea again. Or if you add Florent Berenguer to this midfield, you've got a bit of creativity in there with O'Shea. Here is Hoare coming deep.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Berenguer and what he brings to this midfield. Him and Jay O'Shea together. That's tantalising for Brisbane Roar supporters.
Owaguchi looks long for Antelmi. Devante Clute looking for the option, looking to release Jennings. Has been picked off again. There, another double change coming for Brisbane Roar. There's Kaneko with a little bit of space, looking for Jennings. It was almost perfectly weighted. Macklin Freak had to be strong. Jennings wasn't pulling out of that challenge either.
Look, the right pass from Kaneko. It looked as though Jennings started by running away from the ball and attacking the ball and the goal in the same stride. Just gave Macklin Freak that opportunity to come out, as we see screen in screen. In the end, it's brave goalkeeping. I can't help but think Jennings made Freak the favourite.
And he's come off second best as well. Leroy Jennings, you can see there, he stayed down. Macklin Freak was helping him up to make sure he was okay. Referee Ali Reza Fagani will now come and have a look for himself, but he's called on Sydney United medical staff to come and have a look. And the Brisbane Roar players coming across to take a drink and hear from Ross Aloisi.
The last thing that Sydney United coach Miro Blastelica will want as this game hits the final stage is injuries ahead of that Waratah Cup final coming up.
Against Arpia Leichhardt, who of course are also in the last 16. And they have a Sydney derby on Wednesday night, which you can catch along with the rest of the round of 16 and the quarters, semis and final of this competition on Network 10 and 10 Play. I mentioned at the top of the match that we had experience and inexperience on the bench for Brisbane Roar. We have Scott Neville, who's fast approaching 300 games. And I thought we were going to see Quinn McNichol. He was about to come on. There's been a little change of heart from Ross Aloisi. And instead, we're going to see James Nikolovsky, who's another of the scholarship players, a youngster who's coming on, and it's Zabala and Hingett, the two fullbacks who are making way. So it's Kai Truen, by the looks of things, who's moved to left back.
Number 19, Jack Hingett.
Nikolovsky has come on at right back, and here's not his first touch because Neville's pass is intercepted by Kaneko, looking to pounce quickly. O'Shea for Hoare. Waddingham, that's going to be offside this time against the 18-year-old. And we've also had a change for Sydney United because Leroy Jennings has come off, and it's Alessandro Lacalandra with the rolled R as Trefiro asked of us before the game. Who comes on?
And only you could execute with such perfection, Robbie Thompson.
He scored 2 goals this season. Alessandro Lacalandra in 8 appearances. He's another new arrival at the club this season. And he's highly rated by the Sydney United coaching staff as well. Waddingham. Good strong play again from the Brisbane number 15. Hasn't taken a backward step in the physical challenges either. Schoolboy playing against grown men who plied their trade in the NPL week in, week out. Here he is again. He's done that well. Parsons and Hoare can't bring it under control, but Hoare with Gomulka has done now. Scott Neville has just signed a new 2-year contract, keep him at the club until the end of the 24-25 season. Kaneko back with Kawaguchi. Ball into the middle, can't find Devante Clute. Aldred with a good header for O'Shea. Couldn't find Mile Uznic this time. Nikolovsky. Mile Uznic thought he was going to find O'Shea there. It didn't come off. Brisbane really focusing on trying to play a little bit of keep ball at the moment as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Keeping the ball under pressure, playing out of tight areas. They're all the habits that Ross Aloisi will want them getting into ahead of the season.
A little acceleration from Henry Hoare, who gets there. O'Shea, a jink to find a yard or two of space. Mile Uznic on. Overhit that time as O'Shea thought he was in behind, and now we are going to see the youngest ever Australia Cup player for Brisbane Roar. We did have the Oakley Cannons goalkeeper last year, who was only 12, of course, when he played in that quarter-final, semi-final against MacArthur Bulls. At the 15-year-old Quinn McNichol, who, if you saw the performance against the Newcastle Jets in the round of 32, would have seen a young player with plenty of quality as well, and an eye for goal, not overawed by the occasion. And he's got another 15 minutes or so here, Phil Moss, to show what he can do. Waddingham with McNichol, plays it out wide with Parsons. Here he is again. He was looking the little 1-2 with Gomulka. We talk so often, Mossy, about coaches giving kids a chance. It's not always that easy. There's a certain responsibility that comes with it, but it is always good to see a youngster get his chance, isn't it?
Oh, and it's always good as a coach to be able to give a youngster an opportunity. I think when I look back at my fondest coaching memories, it's when you're able to bring them on the pitch and give them their opportunity, seeing them take it. But you're right, there's a balancing act between that and results and the balance of the squad, managing senior players as well.
Rule down the right-hand side. Aldred, who's imposed himself physically at the back in this match this afternoon, the Brisbane Roar captain. He struggled with his fitness at the start of 2 seasons ago before returning to the side. He had a minor injury at the start of last season, but he's been a near ever present at the back. There's Lacalandra with the glancing header all the way through to Macklin Freak. Brisbane Roar, for the first half of last season, had that near hermetically sealed defence. They barely conceded a goal. As Payne gets it back for Kaneko. The cross in towards Antelmi. Lacalandra can't get there. Gamulka gets it clear. Strong from Waddingham with the foul on Clute.
We see that replay. Chris Payne just releasing him down the left-hand side. Kaneko has been up to the challenge.
We're back on here with Rule. Lacalandra's cross. Alex Parsons getting it clear. Vlastelica with the big switch of play. For Bailey, Rule dives into the challenge and keeps it alive. Now looking for the option. Rule going down the outside, asking, having a look yearningly towards Ali Reza Fagani. Did you see that? No, play on.
Well, I think the look at Alireza Fagani was to save his own blushes, Bailey Rule. I think he tripped himself up there. They're still asking some questions, Sydney United. They're not going away despite the scoreline.
Well, it's been a tough season for them in the MPL. They started well, 4 wins out of their opening 5, but then injuries just started to take their toll. As you say, last season's cup run, which eventually saw them probably miss out on signing players for the coming campaign, because they were still involved in a season that went, as you say, Phil Moss, 8 weeks over everybody else and almost ran into the new season. Kaneko hits it, saved by Freak. And then, perfectly illustrated in midweek, that 3-3 draw with the Olympic. They were leading 3-1, and in the end it's an own goal. Although our very own Roy O'Donovan may claim it all the same, but a 95th minute own goal that saw it finish 3-3, and they've just dropped points like that all campaign.
Yeah, they have. It's been their Achilles heel this season, and I've got no doubt in my mind that Roy O'Donovan will claim that goal, just to clarify. But yeah, it certainly has. It's defined their season, unfortunately, and you've seen the signs here this afternoon about the goals they've given away as well.
As here goes Parsons looking to add another. Oh, it's a great stop, and McNichol, Quinn McNichol, at just 15 years of age, has scored his first ever goal for Brisbane Roar just minutes after coming on. What a moment for the youngster. And the importance of it not lost on Jay O'Shea, who makes sure that the celebration is one to remember as well.
Oh, and that's a sign of the culture that's building here at Brisbane Roar as well. When senior players like Jay O'Shea go over and applaud a youngster like Quinn McNichol. Look at that. It might be one of the easiest goals he scores, but it will be one that he will never, ever forget. Some great work down the left-hand side. And look at that. He's Johnny on the spot, or Quinn on the spot. We'll have to rephrase it. Brilliant for the young kid, and credit to Ross Aloisi and his coaching staff for giving a 15-year-old a chance.
Well, fantastic stuff. His first couple of touches looked very much the mark. He then had a period he was just losing the physical battle in the middle of the park for a second, but that will do his confidence the world of good. Fantastic to see. You don't hand out, as you say, Phil Moss, when you've got a squad to manage. You don't hand out caps to youngsters just willy-nilly. They have to earn it, and occasionally you get repaid with a moment like that.
Yeah, there's no doubt that will form a lot of banter around the dinner table tonight when Brisbane get back to their hotel. Fantastic moment for the youngster and for everyone at Brisbane. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, they've brought players back like Parsons and Coletti, Queenslanders, who know what it's like to represent them, as McNichol on the charge forward again. Nikolovsky, another of the youngsters, the local youngsters, trying to make their mark in the team. Here's Gamulka. You see what Adelaide have been able to do by creating that identity, bringing through local youngsters. Payne dispossessed a little too easily by Nikolovsky there. Gamulka's able to turn. Waddingham takes off again. It was well read by Bakmaz that time, who stepped out. Nicol with the little step and roll over.
If you don't mind, it amounted to nothing, but it's still the audacity to try something like that by a 15-year-old. You see just a little scrappy moment there, but there it is. Look at that. Just to let everyone know he's got a deft touch. He's got the confidence.
Sydney United have seen more of the football in this second half. They've had 4 shots at goal against 5 for Brisbane, but Brisbane, with those 2 goals, have just made it count in the important areas as well. It could have been different perhaps when Jennings had that shot across the face of goal at 2-1, or what could have been 2-1. And then, of course, Brisbane went straight up the other end and scored and took it beyond them at 3-0. It's now 5-0. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, Brisbane had 12 months to think about it. And there's still time for dessert.
I'm sure there's some players in the Brisbane squad today that will have thought about the R word. I'm sure Ross Aloisi wouldn't have used it in the build-up to this. It's a new era for him. What happened last year would matter zero to Ross Aloisi. Luch Trani, his assistant coach, of course, and all the new management. This is a fresh slate now, clean slate for them to start again. Exciting times, great opportunity.
Nicol looking for the switch of play. And here, Ross Aloisi, plenty of instructions for Taras Gamulka. McNichol again. Little flick over the top for Parsons. Rule under immense pressure and shields the ball well enough to earn the free kick.
Well, it's quite remarkable for a 15-year-old. Quinn McNichol, his audacity to try things, his confidence to try things in that top third. It's a wonderful sign of things to come once he gets his physical strength as well.
Ooh. And there, the exuberance of youth, perhaps a little too much from Nikolovsky. As he goes, Kaneko, who hits it. That's been blocked by his own player, and tell me. Aldred not taking any chances. He's kept that in play. Now we still have Kawaguchi, who's down, and he was clattered into. It's going to be a yellow card for James Nikolovsky.
See the replay here. That is heavy, heavy contact from Nikolovsky. And Kawaguchi, he's done well to get up on his feet without any assistance from the Sydney United medical staff.
Oh, he just clattered into him. You talk about the confidence of young players. Sometimes there's a little bit of adrenaline as well that experience will help them manage in the future.
Yeah, and that's right, and it is down to experience, isn't it? When to use it, when not to. We just see it again. Nikolovsky comes flying in. Thankfully, Kawaguchi is not injured.
And now Parsons to accelerate. Ooh. Well, Brisbane are still going at 100 kilometres an hour, and that is also a good sign for Ross Aloisi on his side. At 5-0 up, Payne can hit them from distance. Already scored one worldly this week in the MPL. Here he is again. Oh, the return pass. And that's going to be a yellow card against Bailey Rule, who went down in the box looking for one earlier. Fagani wasn't interested, and there he's just saying, don't try it, it's not on.
I think you can call that compounding interest. Second time that Bailey Rule has gone down in the box. Well, Reza Fagani, we know, is a no-nonsense referee. I think that's really good officiating. There was just a snapshot to your point, Robbie, about the effort Brisbane Roar is still putting in despite the scoreline. Tom Aldred just threw himself in front of that strike from Chris Payne just a couple of moments ago. And that's exactly what Ross Aloisi is going to want to see. It shows what he's building.
Bailey rule again. Vlastelica with Bakmaz. Half-time substitution. One in the air by Nikolovsky. Devante Kloot under pressure from Gomulka. Kawaguchi again. And then Antelmi looking to release Kaneko. Nikolovsky does well. Sees it out of play. Goal kick as we approach the final 60 seconds of regulation time here at Odense Park. Is there time for one more for Brisbane Roar? O'Shea gets it back from Nikolovsky. McNichol. O'Shea again, he was looking for Waddingham. Bakmaz. Well, that's a nice bit of skill from Devante Kloot, and he manages to keep it alive. Bakatis with Bakmaz. Space on the right-hand side for Bailey Rule. Is there to be some joy for Sydney United? Lakalandra. Payne, who's been playing that number 10 role of Glenn Trefiro since coming on, and Telmy still up front. We've got 4 minutes of stoppage time announced by the fourth official. And Telmy back to goal against Neville, surrounded by orange shirts. Kloot again. Long way out, and that unfortunately sums up Sydney United's afternoon. They just haven't been able to get close enough to goal.
You're spot on. Absolutely. There hasn't been enough threat for Macklin Freak in the goal for Brisbane Roar. But from Brisbane's point of view, in summary, there's a lot to like for Ross Aloisi and his staff today. When they've gone about things, the mindset, how they've kept pushing, even though the scoreline's blown out a little bit.
Lakalandra can't hit the target in what was a pretty presentable opening for what they've had so far in 90 and a bit minutes.
Yeah, but again, it's just that cutting edge, isn't it? But again, the rotations for Ross Aloisi, the ball movement, the combinations, you can see them starting to come. Still a long way to go, of course, but some good signs, and throw Berenguer into the mix.
As the flag stays down for Waddingham. The bounce just holds him up a little bit as Bakmaz gets across. Well, the pre-season is always full of promise, isn't it? But it's very much the case at Brisbane Roar. And ball goes Sydney United's way.
And for Sydney United, really, Coach Miro Vlastelica.
There's the ball over the top for Antelmi. They're not interested. They're not giving anything away, Brisbane.
It's all about managing his players, getting their mind back on the job for the Waratah Cup final.
Kloot hits it. Very casually dealt with by Macklin Freak. It was dipping devilishly just in front of him, but no problem whatsoever. Just 4 appearances last season for Macklin Freak, who played second fiddle to Jordan Holmes. A lovely touch from Gomulka. Looking for Waddingham. Oh, good strength again from Waddingham. And there to be hit on the left foot, he just couldn't direct it on target.
He didn't have the finish there, but his awareness of how to use his body. Look at this, as the ball's played over the top there, he gets in front of his defender, and when he can't, he uses his arms so well. His awareness has really impressed me. The finish will come as he gets sharper and gets more rhythm. What he showed today, I think Brisbane have got a player.
Rule back with Devante Clute. Lastalitsa with Kawaguchi. Clute again. That's a nice turn. Past Gamulka. Lakalandra. Rule the overlapping run. Kai Truan, who's been filling in at left back for most of the second half, doing the job again, conceding the corner.
Bailey Rule's got through a shift this afternoon, there's no doubt, but he needed to hang that one up to the back post. Trying to slide it low and hard was the wrong option. With runners at the back post. And they're just the decisions that have let them down today. They've got into the advanced areas enough times to cause problems.
Last chance for Sydney United to get some joy. The header at the near post from Yanni Pakatis deflected. And they'll have another chance to get some late joy out of this one. The 4 minutes of stoppage time just about up. Deep ball to the back post. Payne is there. Oh, wonderful technique. He is a technician. And the final shot of the game is for Sydney United, but there's no joy. There's no repeat of last year's incredible cup set when they sent Brisbane Roar packing from the semi-finals to become the first NPL side to qualify for the final. This afternoon has gone very much in Brisbane Roar's favour. Goals in the first half from Hoare and Waddingham, followed up by Mile Usnic, a penalty from Jay O'Shea, and then a little bit of history. Well, I guess there was history as well with Waddingham in his first senior goal, but 15-year-old Quinn McNichol with his first senior goal as well. As it is Brisbane Roar who are the first side into the quarterfinals of the Australia Cup 2023, and they've done it emphatically by the score at Adenza Park of 5-0 over Sydney United. Well, let's have a look at the highlights, Mossy. It started with that error that really, unfortunately for Sydney United, set the tone for the afternoon.
Yeah, it certainly did, and he'd had a decent start to the game. Had shook up. He gave that ball away, and you don't have to ask Henry Hoare twice from that position to find the back of your net. And he did it with some confidence. And that really did set the tone. And then down the left-hand side, we see that delivery from Zabala. And Waddingham was absolutely fantastic this afternoon. I thought he really got through the hard work. Look at that, great delivery into an area. And Waddingham really attacks it, doesn't give his defender a chance to do his job.
And then in the second half, Henry Hoare setting them back on their way. That goal coming just seconds after Sydney United had their best chance of the match through Jennings, but Mile Usnic wasn't making any mistake there.
No, that's right. Great delivery from Henry Hoare from the left-hand side. Look at that, out-muscled his defender, just wanted it more, got his head up, picked his spot, laid it on a platter for Mile Usnic, whose output this afternoon deserved a goal. He was busy, he got through his hard work, and then he got the cherry on top with the goal.
There was another opportunity here where it was Alex Parsons, who's back at Brisbane Roar after that disappointing season at Sydney. He earned the penalty off Bailey Rule. And Jay O'Shea, who missed a penalty in that semi-final last year, exercising his own demons with an emphatic finish into the top left-hand corner. That made it 4-0, almost the perfect afternoon, but there was still more to come, and this just topped it off.
Well, this made it the perfect afternoon for Brisbane Roar. Clean sheet, and then you get a 15-year-old scoring a goal like that. Quinn McNichol, that will go down in history, and it will be something that will never, ever be erased from his memory. And you could see what it meant to the Brisbane players as well, with Jay O'Shea racing over to celebrate with the 15-year-old. Outstanding scenes, brilliant to see.
Well, that's how it happened on the pitch. Let's have a look at the stats now. In the end, Sydney United just in that last 10 minutes when they threw everything at Brisbane, ending up winning the shots, at least 16-14, but the expected goals tell the stories of what happened there. Well, the stats all very much in Brisbane Raw's favour. Now we're going to head down to Daniel Garb, who's with one of the stars.
Well, what an afternoon it's been for this young man, Thomas Waddingham, playing his first full 90 minutes for the Brisbane Raw, scorer of their second goal. They're through to the quarterfinals of the Australia Cup. Thomas, thanks for joining us. How enjoyable an afternoon was that for you?
Yeah, it was brilliant. You know, great performance by the boys. The surface was a bit hard to play on. You know, we're not used to the AstroTurf, but you know, great performance by the boys, and you know, got the win. Talk
us through your first goal for the Brisbane Raw. You almost had one just before, but you made up for it not too long after.
Yeah, I almost had one before, but you know, knew I'd get another chance. You know, the service from these boys, and yeah, it wasn't to get the goal. You know, just poaching. So yeah, beautiful.
If a goal for you at 18 years of age wasn't enough, you helped set up one for Quinn McNichol, who's only 15. He's now the youngest goal scorer in the final rounds of the Australia Cup. Tell us about that moment for him and the chemistry between you two.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. You know, we're room together. You know, so we're great mates off the field and on the field as well. We work well. And yeah, great for him to get first goal at the age of 15. You know, it's crazy how young he is, and plenty more to come from him. So yeah.
Between you and Quinn and others, it's exciting for Brisbane Raw fans to see the youngsters coming through. What has Ross Aloisi said to you about the opportunities you might get in the A-League in the upcoming season to lead the line in orange?
Yeah, you know, we just work towards his structures, I guess, and if you play to his structures and you do what he says, I guess you're very coachable, then he'll give you the opportunity, you know. We're young, we got the not too many old ones up top, so yeah, we have all the opportunity to go up front and score our goals.
Good on you, Thomas. Enjoy the moment. Well done. Thomas Waddingham there. Patrick Entelme is going to join me now from Sydney United. Thanks for joining us, Patrick. Unfortunately, it wasn't a replica of last year. What was the difference this time around?
I think we didn't capitalise on our opportunities in the game. I think we should have been a bit more dangerous with the opportunity we had to go 2-1, you know, change the momentum of the game, and we could have capitalised the momentum and go from there. But then, you know, they were quality. They moved the ball around. They moved us around. You can see that they were a lot sharper.
It's been such a big year for you after that run to the Cup final last year, of course. Is it perhaps a sign of the team being a little bit heavy in the legs this time around?
Oh, look, definitely. We started in February, and now we've got one more game with the Waratah Cup final. But yeah, it does take its toll, and of course we all work as well, so that takes its toll for the week and whatnot for the year.
Still a massive moment though, the Waratah Cup final against Apia Leichhardt. You've got to, I guess, get back to work and get ready for that one.
Yeah, that's right. Look, no one likes a defeat, but at the same time we've got another game and a cup and trophy to play for, so got to regroup, shake it off, and Tuesday go again.
You still look dangerous today yourself. Your Australia Cup record's fantastic. 11 goals in 10 games, or 11 and 11 now. What is it about this competition that brings out the best in you?
Oh, look, it's everyone loves a cup run. Everyone loves a cup game. I think it's also being able to display on this platform, you know, to show what us NPL players are about. You know, we do, as I said, we work full time, and then these games are opportunities to showcase what we're about and what we can show between the difference with the A-League and us.
Patrick, thanks for joining us. All the best in the Waratah Cup final. Commiserations on today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. Patrick Entelme there from Sydney United. So it's been revenge exacted for the Brisbane Raw this afternoon. 5-0 winners in the Australia Cup round of 16 over Sydney United. They are through to the quarterfinals. From myself, Robbie Thompson, Phil Moss and the team, thanks for your company from here at Adenza Park.